We're looking at a log file here from David Cheney. The log file has three different profiles in it with three different sets of PID values that he's tuned, and he's trying to figure out which one is the best one. So I'm going to just kind of go into this cold. I'm not really going to look too much, or really at all, at what his PID values are. I'm just going to kind of look at the results in Blackbox and tell you what I think. So I've got pitch, roll, and yaw up here, and I'm just scrolling through the file looking for anything sort of interesting that might be happening. And for a lot of it, it doesn't look like too much is going on. So we're just going to keep moving past those. Here at this point, I start to see some activity on the D term and the P term. I see that your throttle is low, so I'm guessing that maybe you're falling through some prop wash, perhaps. I don't know. As we keep going, the amount of oscillation here on the D term in roll and pitch looks like it might be excessive. I don't see a lot going on yaw. Yaw doesn't look, so it looks like you have almost no D gain on yaw, and your P term doesn't look like it's doing too much. So yaw is not overtuned. So let's drop yaw out of here so that I can. Oh, it may not have been D term on yaw. Actually, I think maybe your D term wasn't logged on yaw. Anyway, never mind that. So looking here, I see, yeah. So if we start looking here, we start to see what looks like excess D on roll. Notice that the D term is larger in amplitude than the P term. It is not a given that in Blackbox they should always be exactly the same amplitude. It is not a given that that will produce the best flight characteristics. So take this with a grain of salt because I don't have flight video. But in general, if I start to see the D term being larger and more active than the P term, I start to think perhaps there may be too much D gain and it may be pulling around your gyro and your PID sum too much. Notice here, P is not doing much, but D is kind of really active. And if we keep looking, D gets even more active here. D is getting more active. And now we're really starting to see, notice that here at the gyro trace, we can see the gyro oscillating, right? So this is something that may start to show up in the camera and be able to be really noticeable. This kind of oscillation is probably not resulting in optimal flight performance. The P is moving, the gyro is moving. So my first thought is that roll D gain needs to come down, especially in scenarios like this where we see the D term is about twice the amplitude of the P term here. That's probably, it may be that you have too much P gain as well, unknown, but probably too much D gain here, maybe knock it down a little bit. So now I'm going to cheat and I'm going to look at your numbers a little bit. Profile 1, you have 0.8 as your roll P and 20 as your roll D. Now based on that, a roll D of 20 is probably not excessive and probably by itself is not enough to really cause this much activity. So probably I would knock the P down. If you have too much P, it'll result, it's sort of a tail wagging the dog scenario. Who's doing, or chicken and the egg, who's causing the oscillation, P or D? Either one could cause it. But in this case, based on the fact that your D is 20 and your P is 0.8, I would probably knock your P down a little bit um, on roll. Or maybe, well, no, TPA is not going to do it because your throttle's quite low here. So if we look at pitch, we do not see any crazy oscillation here. We see a little bit of movement, but it looks fine. And I know you got a flip in here too, or a roll. Where was that? Here's another place with some dynamic behavior. I gotta say, I'm gonna take it back. Try reducing D first. Reduce D to maybe 15 a little bit first, because most of the time your roll P looks fine. It's just in that one case where it kind of flipped out a little. There we go. Here's your roll, and leave it alone maybe. Here is a roll to the side. This looks pretty good. We got a P term pushes into the move, pushes same direction as the gyro, out of the move, that's normal, and then comes close to zero. This looks like a pretty good roll to me. At the end of the move, There, you see the gyro goes down below the line here. There is a small amount of bounce back at the end of the move. It's a relatively long bounce back too. That's interesting. I don't know what to say about that. It's hard to see. I've recommended reducing your D, but now we've got a little bit of bounce back here. So I wonder if when you reduce your D, those oscillations will go away and you may be able to increase your P slightly. I know that's kind of backwards because normally increased P and increased D go together. I don't know. I'm sort of brainstorming here. Your pitch does not look too bad. There we go. Let's see if we got overshoot here. Yeah, just a little bit of bounce back here where the gyro comes to the other side of the line instead of coming cleanly to the zero line. That one's not too bad though. That comes back to zero pretty quickly here. So I'm not too concerned about it. That's probably barely even noticeable. You don't see a lot of oscillation on your pitch, and I noticed that your pitch P gain is 0.8, same as your roll P gain. Now I know you've got an Alien, which is a very symmetrical copter, but at the same amount of P gain and D gain, we are seeing far more motion on your roll axis than your pitch axis. So it's not a perfectly centralized, and you probably could stand to have a little more P gain on pitch than on roll. Okay, now I'm going to skip right to number 3 because I recall from your screenshots that I think number 3 was the most tuned of them. Yeah, and number 3, okay, so now I'm looking at your numbers, okay. Number 3, your pitch your P gain is 1.2 on both of them. It'll be interesting to see what we see here. Let's look for anything interesting. And your D gain is 24, so you've raised both P and D. Should be interesting. Oh, perfect. Now, look at the difference here in your roll. Do you see that we have a push? The P term pushes into the move and out of the move. But now, instead of neatly coming back to the zero line and staying there till the end of the move, we have this strong oscillation. This is overtuned. Now, it's a little hard to judge whether it is excess P, excess D, or both, but this is definitely overtuned. These oscillations in the middle of the roll are a sure sign of overtuning, and look how they continue happening at the end of the move. Strong oscillations at the end of the move. This is something needs to be backed down, either P or D. Okay? What else do we have? Another roll. This one is a little better, a little closer to the line, but we still have these oscillations at the end of the move. It's not great. Oh, and here's a flip. Fantastic. Here's a flip. Again, similar thing. Oscillations is a little better, but still the P term never gets back to zero, and the D term is definitely sort of oscillating in here. It's not quite as bad though. This one, yeah, this one's not quite as bad. So, I feel like this is supporting the idea that your pitch needs to be a little higher tuned than your roll. In this one, your pitch, it might be a little overtuned. Oh, but now this one doesn't look bad at all. You see, push into the move, push out of the move. P never gets back to the zero axis, but it also isn't oscillating. This is not too bad. So your pitch P at 1.2 is perhaps slightly overtuned, but maybe not. It probably flies great. Your roll, on the other hand, is definitely overtuned at 1.2, and it could maybe even come down to like 0.7. All right. Well, that's my opinion, and I hope it's helpful, and happy flying.